Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is about to vanish. No trace, no warning, no explanation. Gone without a trace. And here's what keeps investigators awake at night. The same thing could happen to you. We like to believe we live in a world of answers. Satellites track our every move. Cameras record our faces. Our phones know where we are at all times. Yet people still disappear into thin air as if reality itself swallowed them whole. As Arthur Conan Doyle once wrote, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. But what happens when nothing remains? What happens when every explanation seems impossible? Today, we're diving into 10 cases that shattered our understanding of what's possible. 10 stories where the evidence leads nowhere. 10 mysteries that experts, scientists, and investigators have spent decades trying to solve and failed. No bodies, no answers. Buckle up, because after this, you'll never look at an empty room the same way again. Flannan, December 1900. A lighthouse stands on the remote Flannan Isles, 20 miles off the coast of Scotland. 3 experienced keepers maintain its flame. Then silence. When a relief ship arrived on December 26, they found something that defies explanation. The lighthouse was empty. The clock had stopped. 2 of 3 sets of oilskins were missing. An untouched meal sat on the table. The entrance gate was closed. No signs of struggle. No bodies, just absence. 3 men vanished. Think about it. These weren't tourists. These were trained lighthouse keepers on an isolated rock in the North Atlantic. Where could they possibly go? The official investigation concluded they were swept away by a freak wave. But here's the problem. The lighthouse sits 70 feet above sea level, and the logbook entries from their final days spoke of unprecedented storms that never actually occurred. As the poet Wilfred Wilson Gibson later wrote about this case, 3 men alive on Flannan Isle, who thought on 3 men dead. Over a century later, we still don't know what happened to Thomas Marshall, James Jucat, and Donald MacArthur. But this is just the beginning, because what vanished next wasn't 3 men on a rock. It was an entire colony. The Lost Colony, 1590. Roanoke Island, modern-day North Carolina. Governor John White returns after 3 years away to resupply the English colony he'd helped establish. What he finds haunts American history to this day. Every single colonist, 115 men, women, and children had vanished, gone without goodbye. No bodies, no graves, no signs of battle. The only clue, the word Croatoan carved into a wooden post. Now, you might think this mystery has been solved by now. We have DNA testing, archaeological surveys, historical research spanning 4 centuries. Yet the fate of the lost colony remains one of America's oldest unsolved mysteries. Some theories suggest they integrated with local Native American tribes. Others propose disease or famine. But here's what bothers historians. There were no remains, no abandoned belongings. It's as if they simply walked into the forest and ceased to exist. As historian David Beers Quinn observed, the lost colony reminds us how fragile civilization can be at its edges. 115 people don't just evaporate, and yet they did. But if you think a colony disappearing is strange, wait until you hear about a civilization that vanished overnight, and they numbered in the millions. Maya collapse. Around 900 AD, one of the most sophisticated civilizations on Earth simply stopped. The Maya had built towering pyramids. They developed advanced mathematics, including the concept of zero. They created a written language and predicted astronomical events with stunning accuracy. Then their great cities fell silent. Millions vanished in decades. We're not talking about a small settlement here. We're talking about a civilization spanning modern-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. Cities like Tikal housed over 100,000 people. And then, abandoned, temples reclaimed by jungle, roads swallowed by vegetation. The Maya didn't all die. Their descendants live today, but something made them abandon their greatest achievements almost simultaneously across hundreds of miles. Theories range from drought to warfare to environmental destruction, but none fully explain the speed and totality of the collapse. As archaeologist Arthur Demarest put it, the Maya collapse teaches us that even the most brilliant civilizations can unravel with terrifying speed. Imagine New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago all being abandoned within a single generation. That's what happened to the Maya. Cities into silence, but at least the Maya left ruins behind. What if I told you about travelers who vanished leaving nothing at all? Flight. December 5, 1945. 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers take off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida for a routine training exercise. 14 experienced crew members, clear weather, a simple navigation drill. None of them ever returned. 5 planes, 0 traces. The last radio transmissions paint a picture of growing confusion. Lieutenant Charles Taylor reported his compasses malfunctioning. He believed they were over the Florida Keys when they were actually over the Bahamas. Then the transmissions became fragmented, static, silence. The Navy launched a massive search operation. They sent out planes and ships to cover thousands of square miles of ocean. And here's where it gets truly disturbing. One of the search planes, a PBM Mariner with 13 crew members, also vanished. 27 men gone, 6 aircraft, no wreckage ever found. They vanished as completely as if they had flown to Mars. This incident sparked the legend of the Bermuda Triangle. Scientists have proposed explanations: magnetic anomalies, methane gas eruptions, rogue waves. But no proof. The ocean keeps its secrets. But the next disappearance we'll explore didn't happen over water. It happened in the middle of a crowded city. Sodder children. Christmas Eve, 1945. Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sodder family goes to sleep in their farmhouse. Around 1 in the morning, fire erupts. George and Jenny Sodder escape with 4 of their 10 children, but 5 others, aged 5 to 14, remain trapped upstairs. 5 children never found. Here's what doesn't add up. When investigators sifted through the ashes, they found no bones, no remains of any kind. The fire burned hot, yes, but not hot enough to completely incinerate 5 human bodies. Crematoriums operating at 400 degrees still leave bone fragments. Strange details emerged. The phone lines had been cut before the fire. The family's 2 vehicles had been sabotaged. A ladder that should have been against the house was missing. Witnesses reported seeing the children in a passing car that night. George Sodder spent the rest of his life investigating. He erected a billboard with the children's photos that stood for decades. What happened to our children on Christmas Eve? Was it a tragic accident, a kidnapping, something darker? No bodies, no answers. The case remains officially unsolved. But our next story involves a disappearance that happened in plain sight, with witnesses watching. Maritime. Wait, did we already cover the Flannan Lighthouse? Yes, but here's something most people don't know. That disappearance fits a pattern. A disturbing pattern of maritime workers vanishing from isolated posts throughout history. The ocean takes its own. Consider the Point Reyes Lighthouse in California, where a keeper vanished in 1908. Or the Seguin Island Light in Maine, where a keeper reportedly went mad and disappeared. Or dozens of other cases scattered across coastlines worldwide. Lighthouses represent humanity's attempt to bring order to chaos, to shine light into darkness. And yet something about these liminal spaces, these borders between land and sea, between the known and unknown, seems to attract mystery. Psychologists call this liminal anxiety, the unease we feel in transitional spaces. As anthropologist Victor Turner noted, liminal entities are neither here nor there. They are betwixt and between. Perhaps some places exist at the edge of our understanding, where the rules we take for granted begin to fray. Borders between worlds. But the next disappearance didn't happen at any border. It happened in the most ordinary place imaginable, a small town in Vermont, Bennington. Between 1945 and 1950, at least 5 people vanished in a small area of southwestern Vermont near Bennington. They weren't connected. Different ages, different backgrounds, different circumstances. But they all disappeared within the same remote wilderness. 5 years, 5 souls. Paula Weldon, 18, hiking the Long Trail in 1946. Seen by multiple witnesses, never found. James Tedford returning home by bus in 1949. Passengers saw him board. His luggage arrived. He didn't. Paul Jepson, 8 years old, vanished from his mother's sight in 1950 while she fed pigs. Search dogs tracked his scent to a highway. Then nothing. Frietta Langer, an experienced hiker, disappeared in 1950. She was the only one ever found, 7 months later, in an area that had been thoroughly searched. As author Joseph Citro, who named the Bennington Triangle, wrote, "Something in those Vermont woods doesn't want to be understood." Some point to the area's history. Native American tribes reportedly avoided this region, calling it cursed. Cursed or coincidence? But here's what truly unsettles me. These disappearances stopped as suddenly as they started. What changed? And speaking of patterns that defy explanation, let me tell you about the strangest mass disappearance in military history. Norfolk, August 21, 1915. Gallipoli, Turkey. During one of World War I's bloodiest campaigns, the British 5th Norfolk Regiment advances toward Turkish positions. According to multiple witnesses, they marched into a strange, low-lying cloud, 267 soldiers into mist, and never came out. Now, the skeptical explanation is that they were simply killed in battle, their bodies lost in the chaos of war. But eyewitness accounts from New Zealand soldiers on a nearby hill described something extraordinary. They reported watching the regiment enter a peculiarly shaped cloud that hung over the battlefield despite a breeze that should have dispersed it. After the last soldier entered, the cloud rose and drifted away. The cloud moved off, and when it had gone, there was no one there. The regiment had vanished. After the war, Britain demanded Turkey return their prisoners. Turkey stated they had never captured the regiment. No prisoners, no bodies. Bodies were eventually found in 1919, but only a fraction of the regiment. The rest, still missing. War is chaos. Records get lost. Bodies disappear. But a regiment marching into a cloud, that's something else entirely. And yet, our next case might be even stranger because it involves someone vanishing in front of witnesses. David. September 1880. A farm near Gallatin, Tennessee. According to the story that has circulated for over a century, farmer David Lang walked across his pasture in full view of his wife, 2 children, and a passing judge. Halfway across the field, he vanished. Mid-step gone. Not fell, not stumbled into a hidden hole. Vanished. One moment there, the next moment not. The witnesses ran to the spot. The ground was solid. No explanation. For months afterward, the family reported the grass where David had stood turned yellow and died in a perfect circle. Now here's where I must be honest with you. Many researchers believe this story is a legend, not fact. No newspaper accounts from 1880 confirm it. The witnesses left no verified statements. Legends often tell us more about our fears than about actual events. But here's what fascinates me. Why does this story persist? Why do we keep telling tales of people stepping out of existence? Because we fear it. Perhaps the story endures because it speaks to a primal terror. That reality itself might have holes in it. And that brings us to our final case, one that's completely documented and perhaps the most disturbing of all. Beaumont, January 26, 1966, Australia Day, Adelaide, South Australia. Jane, 9, Arna, 7, and Grant Beaumont, 4, took a bus to Glenelg Beach, a trip they'd made many times before. They were supposed to return by noon. They never came home. 3 children, 1 beach. Multiple witnesses saw them that morning playing with a tall, blond man in his 30s. A man no one could identify. A man the children seemed to know. The case shocked Australia. It was one of the first disappearances to receive massive media coverage. Police interviewed thousands. They followed hundreds of leads. Psychics, informants, confessions that led nowhere. For 60 years, parents Jim and Nancy Beaumont waited. Jim died in 2019. Nancy in 2019, both without answers. Not knowing is the worst punishment. It never lets you rest. 60 years, no closure. This case isn't ancient history or wartime chaos. This happened in the modern era, in a developed nation, with witnesses and media coverage. And still, 3 children walked into the sunshine of an Australian summer and disappeared forever. The Beaumont case changed Australia. It ended an era of innocence when children could roam freely, but it never provided answers.